Welcome to the first video in a small series that I will dub Behind the X. This will be videos that come at the end of each project, where I will give behind the scenes about the project. There will also be lore drops about the project and who knows, maybe even hints on the next one. So, let's go by chapters, with the first one being the backstory of the whole thing. So you might be surprised, but the actual idea to make this came from a guy in a Discord server I was in, and they were gonna make a mythicals for the rest of the islands. And as a matter of fact, that is where Zondarok and Onistorm came from, because I was part of it. But since nothing came out of that, I took my two mythicals and went and made my own one. No disrespect to the guy, that I have forgotten the name by the way. And that's the story of the entire thing. It all came from someone in Discord I was in, making a more mythical thing, and went nowhere, so I decided to do it myself. Insert Thanos meme here. Now, how about the behind the scenes on, well, how the monsters themselves came to be? Most of the monsters were actually randomly made in my head while I was walking to my school. Because it would take an hour or so to get there, I would listen to MSM and imagine what I could add there and how it could look like. Hell, even most of their bios, or at least the early ideas of them, came from me being bored and walking. Well, that was for most of the early ones. Somewhere around after the second wave of Dream Mythicals, they would drop as ideas when walking with my friend, minus the bored and listening to MSM part as well. Next up is a chapter that is, let's say, kinda small chapters, because I would like to get into each mythical and their dream mythicals separately. Starting off with the one that started it all, the Zondarok and Onistorm. And wow, do they have a story to tell. And that's a bigger segment, being made months before the debut episode. Fun fact, the bios were originally even bigger, with Zondarok having a whole story of the Woobox having a vision of a mythical, an idea that made it go around the world trying to find inspiration, finally ending with an egg-shaped monster that it finished, and then the moon would like sign on it, giving it life. Now let me get into some little details, like how their first part of the names are Greek words, like Zonda in Zondarok is living, making it living rock, and Oni in Onistorm comes from Oniro, that is dream in Greek, making it Dreamstorm. The instruments of the two monsters is for Onistorm a drum set, but the Zondarok is a little bit different, because as a matter of fact, its instrument is a flute on low notes and heavy with effects. Next up, Soul and Krasog. Let me get into Soul first. I bet you think its name comes from Psychic Owl, but as a matter of fact, it comes from Psychic Fowl, which is what the peacock is. And Krasog comes from Crash, because if it was a real thing, the idea would be it would jump up and down, like crash down, to make it sound. And Dog. Their instruments are synth for Soul and Gong for Krasog. Next up, Bufferum and Krestrabag are a little special to me, because Bufferum has a good story, being that it's practically blind and has sword monsters as friends for guidance, and Kristrabang because its name is actually based on how Kraflaft and Pukurm names are written and pronounced. Bufferum's name comes from base, phos, which is light in Greek, and mushroom, and plays a double bass. Kristrabang, on the other hand, comes from cranium and bang. The straw was added because I found it funny, lol. Its instrument is the timpani. Archeopac and Steedile also have a story of themselves. Fun fact, this was the original monster I made for the Bone Island representative. Then, because I didn't like it, I made a new one. But then I didn't like that either, and we came into the one we have now. Steedile, the idea came because, well, I noticed MSM doesn't have any crocodiles, so I decided to make one. Archeopac's name comes from archaeology, backpack, and Pachyrhinosaurus, the dinosaur I based it in. Its instrument is the trichodrums, with heavy emphasis on the sticks sound because canonically it uses the robotic claws to make them. Steedal's name comes from steel drums and, well, crocodile. Its instrument is shockingly a steel drum. Next up, Karkin and Celestation. Fun fact about Celestation, I made it in a party for a carnival. Also, Karkin is the only mythical I have made that is almost fully symmetrical. Also, a little bit fun fact about the Karkin, its wobbly voice comes from the fact that it has three mouths that all three move at the same time. Karkin's name comes from the constellation of Cancer, that is a crab, and King Crabs. It's a vocal, duh. Celestation comes from cello and constellation, and of course its instrument is the cello. Also, fun fact, you can see the elements of mythical, light, psychic, fairy, light, and in its design. Next up, Sugapap and Babangsher were actually one of the monsters that was designed first and sound later, well, more specifically for Sugapap, because it and Protostram were the ones that I couldn't make them work for the life of me. Sugapap comes from Suga because the Suga was mythical, and Pap, its instrument is a violin. Babangser name comes from, I think, bunny and like bouncing. I cannot remember actually. And saxophone. Its instrument is a saxophone. The yellow things on Babangser's ears are actually eyes made out of brass. Protostram and Fluno are actually monsters that were also destined to not be good, sadly. Same reason as before, I just couldn't make Protostram work. Here is some design fun facts though, like how Fluno originally was gonna be a kazoo instead of me falling to the flute later. You can see the rings in the design. Also on Fluno, its design is based on a monster from the ethereal workshop that the Protostram saw by accident while it was falling, while it was sleeping. Protostram's design, on the other hand, is of a jellyfish and the ethereal critter. Protostram's name comes from proto, that means first, and monstrum, that is monster in Latin, and of course its sound is a vocal. Fluno's name comes from flute and rhino, and surprise surprise, it plays the flute. Next is Mikaliba and Kibist. Here's a fun fact, Mikaliba originally had a different name, but I forgot to write it down anywhere, so I changed it to the current one. Also, the Kibist is the only other monster that actually had two designs. Here you can see it, because I couldn't pick between a mech and a backpack. As you can see, I went with the mech route. Mikaliba comes from Meeb, mech, and Kalimba. Fun fact, there's a specifically trained Meeb that controls the Mikaliba. Of course, its instrument is the Kalimba. And the Key Beast comes from Kiwi and Beast, because some could say its mech is a beast of a machine. Key Beast's instrument is very special because it's firstly the glass sounds I have from Kolosper, and me slamming my desk for the main percussion. Bugzook Tree and Life Spirit, I won't get into that much because the story is still in development hell, but I can tell you a little secret. If you look at Bugzook Tree's instrument, you will see that one of the Celestials' name is forever carved to it in golden letters. Bugzook Tree comes from bouzouki, bug, and tree, and of course its instrument is the bouzouki. Life Spirit comes from life and spirit. Its instrument is a synth pad. Fun fact about Clown and Infecos. They were both last minute editions. I had the full song ready, then out of nowhere, Nexus came and threw off the whole program. But that didn't mean that they were not made with love. As a matter of fact, I wanted it to be special for the Nexus, that's why I chose the Olm. And spiders were chosen for the Dream Mythical because I noticed a lack of spiders in MSM. Clown's name comes from clacking and Olm. Its sound is me clicking my tongue with an echo. And Infecos came from infested, because that's what they have done to the tree, and echo, because the clown only sees from echolocation, so it has only seen the things that became Infecos, like this. Their instrument is the organ. Fun fact, the bottom Infeco blows into the tree, and the others open and close the holes with their bodies to make the notes. Antquaimon and Biblicai had a very interesting development, with Antquaimon having gone over like 5 different takes and sounds on both islands, and Biblicai coming from the question, what could a godlike creature have as dreams? And insanity it was. Note, Antquaimon is not insane, what it saw was from a different plane of existence because of its anti-element, making it only easily existable there. Antquaimon comes from anti as in antimatter, choir, and monster. And its sound is a vocal choir, it's only me lol. Biblicai comes from biblical, click, and I. Its sound is actually me hitting my chair with a pencil. And lastly, the Angelos and Sea Tector, that also have a big story behind them that I can't wait to make into the little story video. Here's a cool fact, Sea Tector was fully made in a single day. I had a lot of motivation and made it on the same day it was conceptualized in my brain. Angelos come from ancient, nautilus, and its instrument is a French horn. Sea Tector comes from sea and protector. Its sound is actually a timpani, but as bassy as possible. And doing this sound, but with reverb and pitch change, like deep pitch. Now that I have gotten through all of them, I will go through some of your questions. My friend Adam asked, what is your favorite mythical that you've made for your project? And it's the Sea Tector by a long shot. I have no idea why, but something about it has made it my favorite out of everyone. If I had to make like close seconds afterwards, it would be Clown, Bugzuk Tree, and Bufferum. My friend Rudy asked, are any of the monsters you made associated with any families? Are their families entirely new, or do some fall under already canon master families? And yes, there are some. The Mikaliba is technically alongside with the Meebs. Sugapap is technically in the Sugafam. Steedile, or at least the fossils that the Archaeopac envisioned would look like if it was still alive, was and still is in a close relative to the Playbachiderms, and Saul is in a new family in my timeline, of course, alongside Glaul and Gobligord, with a name I haven't made yet. Archaeopac, Stog, and Incisor are both in a family as well that I have named Cretepsoids. And Rudy asked again, oh yeah, how do you come up with names? Any tips for creating fun monsters? I'm gonna be real with you, I came with the names at random. I will just run words associated or close, or even words about the monster or its sound in my head, and eventually it will melt into one or multiple names. As for tips on creating fun monsters, well, that's a little subjective, since everyone has their own process. I personally look at the project I'm doing and going, what would X, Y, and Z elements look like? Or what could fit the vibe of this island, etc. etc. I also just like to ponder on a design in my head and then start making it. And that's all for now. Sadly, there will be a content drought for now, for the Fire Islands are back in production. And of course, another big project is also in its early forms as of now. Also, I will be announcing a Discord for my staff as well, so expect that to drop at some point. Bye bye.